I think that being PDA probably made me gay. And I'm not just saying that to be clickbaity and to hook you into this video. I'm actually saying that because I look back at my life and I think I wish I had known about PDA earlier, but if I had known, would it have made my life any different? Like, I'm a lesbian and I have 3 children, and I have got like a whole range of life experiences, from like coming out to doing IVF and IUI and creating babies during COVID, and like having a teaching career and realizing I'm autistic and having a really wild like roller coaster of a mental health journey, and finally landing on the fact that yes, I'm autistic, I have ADHD, I am incredibly PDA. PDA a lot of the time stands for pathological demand avoidance, but I prefer to call it that persistent drive for autonomy. And I think actually a persistent drive for autonomy is a human trait. And I think we've just pathologized it and gone like, oh, well, you're acting out of the norm. You're acting out of the way that society expects. So we're going to pathologize your symptoms and be like, you want autonomy? How very fucking dare you? Like, everybody should want autonomy, but a lot of people are just too busy falling in line and being told what to do and doing capitalism, even though their nervous system is probably screaming at them to fucking stop doing capitalism or stop doing like things under the patriarchy they just don't want to do. And they're just getting on with it because those are the rules and those are the systems and those are the ways that we keep people in line in society. And my mum turned around to me the other day and was like, Emily, you're very anti-establishment. I'm like, I fucking know, but I just needed someone to put a name on me, put a label on me. Like, I remember the first time I ever heard the word anti-disestablishmentarianism. My year 5 spelling teacher, Mrs. Wackett, taught it to me because we were in class, and then for spellings we all got like mixed up into ability groups, and I'm pretty sure I was in the top ability group, and she was like, well, if you're going to learn these hard words, then here's the fucking hardest word you're ever going to need to know, and taught us that. And it hasn't meant anything to me except in the last couple of years when I'm just like thinking about the way that I actually want to live and thinking about the way that people live. And my dad was like telling me about this city or this place that never got decided whether it should be Israel or Palestine. And in that place where there are no rules and there is no democracy and there is no leadership and there are no police, and it's just a bin fire there. And I'm like, yeah, but we have to think about the ways in which that humans actually create society. And actually, if you allow someone to lead, if you allow a good person to lead, then it'll probably be okay. We just have to stop forcing people to do fucking shit they don't want to do, like working all the hours that life gives. Anyway, back to PDA. I actually think that being PDA is probably the reason that I am gay, because there were so many expectations on me growing up. They weren't explicitly said like, you should get married to a man and have children. That's what women do. But there are so many inferred expectations just by being a human that's existing and being a woman that are put onto you. Like, and I immediately was like, doesn't feel right. Feels too constricting, feels too rules based. And like, sometimes I like rules, I like the structure that rules give and the guidance that rules give, but I also like to know which rules I can bend and which I can break completely. And I usually don't bend or break rules that are going to harm other people. But if it's a rule that I just don't see the point of, or I'm like, I can get away with breaking that rule, then I will break it, right? For context, I'm a member of a hotel. I have a gym membership there, and there's 2 parts of the hotel. There's the main hotel, which has a sauna, spa, gym, and then there's the golf club part, which also has a sauna, spa, gym. And I'm a member of the golf club part, but I sometimes go to the hotel one instead, just to mix it up a bit, just for a bit of novelty, just for a bit of spontaneity, because that's what I need. And I am the girl from Hamilton where they're like, she will never be satisfied, because she has ADHD and she needs novelty and spontaneity and things to feel exciting all the time. But she's also autistic as fuck, and she needs like rules and structures and routines and to know what the expectations are, because otherwise she'll have like a series of savage meltdowns. So sometimes I break the rules and go to the main hotel, even though I don't have a combined membership. But actually it's fine, because there's always something broken at my one. So before it was the sauna, and now it's the steam room. So when something is broken, you're allowed to go down to the hotel to use. So like, I will continue even when everything is fixed because I know how to break the rules, right? And, you know, I've done breaking the rules my entire life. I was raised in like quite a conservative family with very Church of England views. Like I was raised by like staunch and stoic East Londoners, working class parents, working class grandparents who lived through the Blitz. Like I had a lot of expectations on me, and I think there is a lot of generational trauma from growing up with boomers, and that's fine. There are ways in which I have traumatized my children. I already know that. I will deal with the consequences alongside them as they grow up. Hopefully it's trauma with a small t, but who knows? So expectations about getting married and getting married to a man were never explicitly said, but they were always inferred, like, oh, boyfriends, oh, he this, oh, you, when you get married in the future, blah, 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 blah. And I turned around and was like, I'm in love with a woman, but I still want to get married, but I still want to have children, but I will still provide you with grandchildren. And so that was my big way of avoiding those demands and putting my own spin onto those expectations, bending those rules in a way that I could realistically still have what I wanted, which was a secure, loving relationship with marriage and with children, because I knew they were always in my future. But like a lot of lesbians aren't having children because they don't want those expectations placed on them that you have to create babies. Fair enough, it's fucking hard work. I now have lots of children. I think 3 is lots of. And it's been hard, but that's not the topic of this video. I wanted to have that autonomy and choose, and I also wanted to go against those demands and against those expectations, which I feel like I have done. And actually I've done that in all other areas of my life. Like my mum was always like, if you want children, teaching is a great career. FYI, it isn't, but people just say that because you get the 6 weeks holidays and you get other holidays throughout the year. The reason you need so much holiday when you're a teacher is because it's fucking exhausting. Looking after more than one child at a time is exhausting. Like just looking after your own needs is exhausting, let alone like 30 in a class, or like say you've got like 14 high support needs kids in a class, which I had, and then a team of adults to manage. I burnt out of my career, which was supposed to be the career that I was going to have for life, my steady, stable career. You'll never be out of a job career. Within 6 years, I was done. I was ready to leave. I was ready to stop putting my own needs last. I was ready to stop putting my own kids' needs last to look after other people's. And it was a really rewarding job for a time, but it gets too much. There's too much bureaucracy. And so my parents turned around to me like, you had an excellent salary. You had a career for life. You had a job where you would never be out of a job. And I was like, but my mental health is more important. My kids' needs and being with my kids and being around and having capacity for them, not just coming home as like a broken, exhausted, burnt out wreck every night and being like, I can't engage with you because I've been taking care of other people's kids all day, was more important. And I've had to navigate finding a new career since then. Like I quit teaching with no backup plan, no part-time job, no cafe job, no nothing. I quit my teaching job, and on the very same day that I sent the email, I had an interview to be a postie. And luckily I got the job, and I worked as a postie for 3 months, and then I ended up going into social media marketing entry level, just doing something that would pay me, that I needed to use my teaching expertise for, and I combined the teaching expertise with learning how to be a marketeer and using my social media knowledge to do that job for a while. And now I'm in the job that I have now. And I find that work is such a big demand. There's so much expectation that comes with work, but actually when work is 35 hours a week out of I don't know how many hours there are in a week, 24 times 7 or whatever, people put far too much emphasis on their working week, and they exhaust themselves from those 35 hours when actually there are so many other hours around that where they could be doing their creative thing or focusing on parenting or creating days out or days of joy for themselves. People aren't doing that because they're too exhausted by capitalism. And I think working from home is great. There are downfalls, and definitely this week I found that one of the downfalls is that I really need to like connect with other humans, and I really need to like be in person and side by side. And sometimes I will just go into a cafe to work just to remember that other people exist and that there are other humans around me. But I actually feel like moving back to a hybrid approach would maybe work for me if I didn't work so far away from the rest of my colleagues. So like if I was London based, or finding a way to work with a colleague every now and again, or having more face-to-face time with a team would really, really benefit me now that I'm more comfortable with unmasking. Like the thought of working with people when I quit my teaching career was so disgusting to me because I was so broken, so exhausted, so masking so heavily, and that's what exhausted me the most. But now that I'm unmasked and I'm not saying that I'm unmasked in every situation, but in like 85 to 90% of my life, I can unmask pretty safely, and I understand that there is a huge privilege to that. But now I want to go against those kind of expectations that I've created for myself, that I will continue to work remotely forever because people just expect that that is what I will want or need. And I actually want to rebuild my working days and my working hours, my working life, to factor in more human connection time. And that way I feel like I'll be more collaborative, more creative. I'll work faster, smarter, and will actually achieve more and maybe accelerate my career by doing that and actually connecting with people. Like I've realized that when I'm on camera, I'm usually angry. I'm usually in a negative headspace because I'm usually ranting about something and trying to put the world to rights. But actually what I need to do is to not have the expectation that people are always going to expect me to be doing the work, and that I might just be chatting for joy or chatting for creativity or just making a silly video because it feels fun. There are so many times in my like schedule where I'm like, oh, I could use this time to make a video. But as soon as I place that expectation on myself, I don't want to do it. As soon as I create a demand for myself, even with some of the admin that comes with doing the retreats, as soon as it becomes a demand because other people have booked on and now like I have to fulfill that role, I have to create this spreadsheet and ask everyone what their food preferences and sensory preferences are. It's not that I don't want to do it, it's just become a demand, and then I have to put it off until a time where I am ready and I have chosen and I am in control, because ultimately I need that sense of autonomy and that sense of control. And it's not ever about manipulating somebody else. The thing about PDA is that other people will be impacted by your drive for autonomy, especially if you live with one other human, let alone four like I do. Everybody needs their own sense of autonomy, and that is one of the hardest things about parenting for me. There are times when my kids want to do something and I'm like, I don't have the capacity to facilitate that right now. Like this morning, one of my toddlers asked to get magic sand out, and I was like, you are leaving the house in 10 minutes. I do not have the capacity to facilitate getting those resources out for you to play with it for 9 minutes and then to just leave it all over the floor and then hoover up before I start my day at work. So unfortunately, no, you cannot have the autonomy to choose that right now. But if you want to do magic sand later, you absolutely can, because I'll be done with work by then and I can hoover up after you. And then you have to times that by however many people you live with who are making demands of you. And even other adults are going to make demands of you. And even things that aren't explicitly asked of you are demands. Like, I have a really good relationship with my mum now, but there was a time where she used to call me all the time when I first moved away. And I hated that. When somebody calls you, they are demanding that time of you. You are not in control of it. And sometimes you're in a place where you can accept that call and accept that demand. And other times, most of the time, it gets ignored because my phone is on silent, because the demands of having notifications burns me out. And I'm like, I can't be that in demand. And so I will call them back at a time that's convenient for me. But then I am placing a demand on them by calling them and taking up their time. And they're often going to be like, busy, can't talk to you right now. And so that impacts every single relationship that I have. And I think that's why having relationships with people who are openly exploring their neurodivergence or actively aware of the ways in which they work or the ways in which they avoid demands or the ways in which they communicate is so fucking powerful. I feel so empowered by my relationships with other neurodivergent people, or people who understand their neurodivergence, because a lot of people are neurodivergent and they just aren't aware, or they aren't willing to open themselves up to it, or they aren't aware of exploring how their neurodivergence impacts them. And I'm like in that state of hypercritical. I am in that state of like hyper awareness where I am super aware, and I will, if I'm talking to someone neurodivergent, I will say I'm entering a parentheses here, or I'm overthinking it, or I'm asking so many clarifying questions, and they'll be like, "It's fine. I'm glad that you do that," and that is so reassuring and so empowering and so beautiful, because when you first realize that you're autistic or whatever it is that you experience, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never going to have friends ever again. I am broken. I'm a burden to everyone because of this thing that I have or this thing that I experience." It's not fucking true. Okay, so take those demands. Other people might have inferred them, and just flick them away and kick them off. And if you can be open enough about the ways in which you experience demands and the ways in which you try to avoid them and the ways in which you need autonomy with the people that you live with or the people that you spend the most time communicating or hanging out with, then that will open up the conversation and it will allow you to live more freely, because ultimately that is what all humans need, I think. And there are systems that are in place for a reason, and there are systems that benefit us, but a lot of the systems place too many expectations and demands on us, and I don't think it's good for the human psyche. I really don't. So that is why I think PDA made me gay. Let me know what things you think about your lifestyle have been altered by the fact that you experience that persistent drive for autonomy. I would love to hear about them and chat about them in the comments. And as always, don't forget to take care, live slowly, and subscribe if you want to hear more weekly yaps. Okay, love you, bye.